Why do you feel like something is deeply off when everything seems right on paper? Maybe you have a cushy job, or you live in a nice home, or you live a comfortable lifestyle that most people can only dream of. Or maybe you don't, but in other ways, you're hitting every milestone, every marker of success, and still, during those quiet moments, maybe as you're getting dressed in the morning or as your head hits the pillow at night, you wonder, why does it feel like something is missing or not quite right? Or maybe not even quite you? What is that? I've been there. And if you can relate to that, I'm here to tell you that it's not failure, that it's actually a data problem. And that's what we're talking about today. If you've always been the one who could handle it and lately you're wondering why you can't anymore, this channel's for you. I'm Ruth. I have a master's in organizational psychology and over 20 years of studying people up close in companies and in their lives. And what I've learned is that burnout isn't a workload issue. It runs deeper, and there's a way back. Here's the thing, we all want to be smart, and we're taught that smart people are data informed and evidence based, not only at work, even though that's where we hear a lot of it, but also outside of work. Think about the last time you bought something, traveled somewhere, or tried anything new without first consulting the internet and maybe now AI. It's hard, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to do our research and our due diligence. It's what we do when we want to make sure that we're making the best choice for ourselves. But even the most data-informed people tend to ignore an important data set entirely on a daily basis. In fact, I tend to meet and work with a lot of these professionals, and they'll tell you that once they started to pay attention to what they've been ignoring, their lives improved. And none of this was ever mentioned in the listicles or the must-try recommendations that have come their way. Our desire for data didn't happen by accident. Modernity has made data available at our fingertips. We check ratings before we eat somewhere. We read the reviews before we buy anything. We look for the study, the expert, the evidence before we commit to almost anything. We've gotten so good at data gathering that by now it's like second nature, and it can be helpful. But there are questions and decisions that you'll need to make, that we all need to make, that will never have the kind of data and expert that you're looking for. Not because someone didn't talk about it somewhere or write about it at one point, but because the only data that's relevant here is yours, and the only expert on your life is you. Someone can crown mint chocolate chip the best ice cream, Denver, the best place to live, company XYZ, the best place to work, having kids, the best decision they've ever made, divorce, the best thing they've done for themselves, going to grad school, the best money they've ever spent, this breed, the best type of dog, this destination, the best place to vacation. You get the point. And none of it ever tells you how it'll actually feel for you. But the pull to look outside is strong, especially on big questions, the ones where often the outside voices sound more certain and more confident than how you feel. Is this job, this relationship, this situation still right for me? Is it worth what it's costing me? Should I stay or should I go? And here's the thing, if you treat these questions as you do other questions, you will go looking for the data. What would an expert do? What does the framework say? What worked for someone you respect? And in the process, you might forget that every answer out there is a report on someone else's experience and never a forecast of yours. Ironically, what I see happening is that people search high and low for data on personal questions, and will forget or dismiss the only data set that's actually about them, their own signals. Here's what I mean. Your experience is data. What you notice, how you react, the way your body responds to a room, a person, a choice, that's information. And it's the only information that's actually about you. Everything else is an average drawn from other people. Something to consider, but it's about them. And somewhere along the way, we got it backwards. Ignoring your data became the smart, sensible, grown up thing to do. To go with what external sources say is true is credible. But trusting your own read, that's untrustworthy. How you're feeling, what you're experiencing, they say, irrational. So naturally, you learn to discount the one input that was the only one about you and call it being smart. We all did and still do to different degrees. And I'm not saying to make all decisions based only on your inner data. That would also be imbalanced, but to consider your inner data as much as you consider external data. I'm suggesting that your thoughts, feelings, preferences, and reactions also deserve to be included as valid data points. Now, here's where this meets burnout. Burnout is when you keep giving to something that stops giving you what you need. The research is clear that burnout is about the environment. It comes from how well your environment fits what you need to do your best work. Things like whether the work feels meaningful to you, whether the people feel safe, and whether it's still a fair trade. But your fit with your environment isn't on a graph somewhere or in an article out there. To assess whether a place fits you, you have to read your own data. And if you don't read your own data or don't know how or have been trained to ignore it, essentially you're flying blind into situations that may not be a good fit for you, which makes you more vulnerable to burnout. That's why two people can sit in the same harsh environment and one burns out while the other doesn't, or not as severely. It has nothing to do with intelligence or who's stronger or who has more grit or willpower. It's partially because one of them can still read their own data and signals and act on it, while the other one was taught that their signals don't count and dismisses it. If you can relate to this, I want you to know that it's not a character flaw. It's a habit installed in many of us by different people, often in our upbringing, but it leaves you exposed in the workplace, in relationships, and in any situation where there is reciprocity. I made a separate video that talks about what burnout is and what it isn't, and that it's more than just feeling tired or being overworked. I'll link it somewhere on the screen or below if you're interested. So if you've done everything right on paper, which has maybe worked for others, and you're still feeling like something is off or not quite doing it for you, likely there's nothing wrong with you. What's more likely is that you've been making decisions without considering all of the data that's available to you, especially the only one that's actually about you. If this resonates, consider subscribing. This is the type of topic that we dive deeper into in future videos. Burnout and the way back seen differently. But for now, I want to leave you with a tiny experiment so that you can experience what I shared today for yourself. This week, I want you to notice what's influencing you externally. And it doesn't have to be deep. It can be somebody offering you a bite of their food that they love, or a purchase that you made that came highly recommended, or a habit or a hack or approach you took suggested by someone you admire or respect. And notice what worked for you and what didn't. What did you agree with and where did you have a different experience? By doing this, you're practicing the muscle of checking in with your own signals and counting it as real data. Take care of yourself as you would a good friend, and I'll see you next time.